Today's speakers, we have Manu, our Senior Product Manager, and Marina, our Senior Business Analyst for LegalHold, and they'll be walking us through today's webinar. Take it away.
Cool. Thanks, Laura. So welcome, everybody. So what I'll do today is we'll just go a little background on, our product, how we engage with our clients, during the development of some of the features you'll see today. And then we'll cover features up to about the last 3 releases. We normally release about 4 to 5 times a year, like functional releases. We haven't had a webinar, I think, since August of last year, maybe sometime around that time. So we've actually had 3 releases since then. So what we'll do today is we'll just cover at a high level, what those features encapsulate, and we'll be giving demos as well. As Laura mentioned, if you have any questions on some of the features or anything in general, Marina will be monitoring the chat as well. So we'll try and answer in real time any questions, or we'll also have a session later on. We can just pause and spend some time, answering any questions. So just a quick background, of the product. So this is relatively newer product, at MetroTech. This is something we built from the ground up. We started development of it sometime late 2016. The first release came out in 2019. And the way we built this product was basically in conjunction with a large subset of our enterprise legal management software. We basically had a clean slate. And we wanted to build something, intuitive. We wanted to make it comprehensive, have all the bells and whistles that are kind of required nowadays, to manage your LegalHold workflow, and then also have it, defensible. Make sure we have date and timestamps, all actions are tracked. Obviously, have a lot of reporting built in as well. And at the same time, since this was a standalone product, we already had our flagship enterprise legal management systems, like Team Connect, Acuity, eCounsel. So this project is integrated, with that as well. And so anytime you want to create LegalHold for a matter inside those systems, there's a real-time synchronization between those applications back and forth. So it becomes kind of a single platform as opposed to a siloed kind of application. Even though the application itself can be used, standalone as well. We have standalone LegalHold clients that are not using our enterprise legal management system, and it can potentially integrate with a third-party, enterprise legal management system as well. So this is, again, just as a recap of when the product was built. Again, it's been about 5 years now, and since then, we've grown the product a lot, and that basically comes to my next part around client engagement. So once we started development of this project, in 2016, we had about 40 of our clients, join us for our client working group sessions where we went back and forth, looking at design, looking at functionality. We would iterate on some of the new features. And as we've kind of released this product in 2019 and still continue to add features, we still meet, every 3 weeks, without fail, basically talk about what are some of the features, we're building, get some of the ideas, from our client base to see what's the next thing we should work on. And with our regular roadmap that we do, we also focus a lot on ideas that have come directly from a client working group. We share this as well during our client working groups. Last year, when we start the year, we say, hey, we should at least pick 12 to 15 ideas directly from a client idea portal, as well as with our regular roadmap stuff. Last year, we shipped around 24. A lot of the features you'll see today have come directly from our client idea portal, and that's something we look forward to doing as well as we continue to mature and grow the product. Again, I think this year we would have added, I think, 5 ideas already, and this is something we share during a client, group. I know Marina, who's kind of does a lot of implementations. A lot of the ideas come from her. The clients might not have joined the client working group yet because it might be in implementation, but during implementation as well, we get a lot of ideas. Marina, want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So yeah, when we're doing, a migration or, from a previous system, often there is a feature that may be in another product that we may not have put into our product yet. So those are typically items that we will bring up as part of the implementation. And if a client isn't in the working group yet, I'll open tickets on a client's behalf and we'll kind of keep track of that. And some of those we'll try to do before the client goes live if it's something that we think would be beneficial to the whole team.
So based on those ideas, what we'll do now is we'll just go through some of the features that have come out. Again, this is just a kind of a high level snapshot. This doesn't encapsulate all the features. Just I think high level, which I feel will provide most value to our clients. So the first one is our reporting improvements. So the idea behind here is, so the LegalHold product does have a custom report designer where you can kind of create your own reports based on the different information that is there in the product. You can also, schedule reports, using a scheduler, so the reports don't have to be run manually and they can be emailed or put in an FTP location. But one of the things we realized was, we can create custom fields in LegalHold, but we can't report on custom fields, right? Which I think was a big pain point for our clients, because these custom fields can also be created, for example, in Team Connect, right? We have clients that capture custom fields, on a matter, but they want to actually have that custom field also be a part of a whole notification that go out. So that's an automatic synchronization between, Team Connect and LegalHold, where custom fields are added to the LegalHold product, but there was no easy way to report on that data, which was kind of a big gap, right? Because you wanted to do that, and also reporting needs can have a large data set around. You can have custom fields coming from Team Connect or custom fields created in the LegalHold product. You can have, we want to report on the out of the box field that are already there in the product. So we found the market problems were just lack of insights, no easy way to report on large data sets, and then no easy way to kind of filter out the data as well, right? It would be kind of a manually intensive process. So the objectives when we started this project was just an easy way for the user to report on custom fields by improving the analysis of data, and then also saving a lot of time on that data analysis. So what that basically means is, when you're using our custom report designer, if you go look at the data, you'll see now there is a custom field object there where you can pick the custom fields that are there already there coming from Team Connect or already there created in the LegalHold product, and then be able to report on that with the other existing objects that are already there. And at the same time, we also added some new filters around if you want to capture response rates automatically or non-respondents automatically, instead of someone having to go and click on a report to see, hey, who are all my non-respondents. I think it's very powerful if you can automate the process. Monday morning, the attorneys can get basically, for example, hey, these are all the legal holds with the non-respondents, and this is the date the hold issued. This is the matter information. This is the attorney information. All that stuff can be automatically done. So the idea behind this kind of feature was just to automate a lot of the functionality around custom fields, and then also additional filters, that we've added, to the product. What I'll do now is I'll just give a quick demonstration of what that basically looks like. So if you look at any LegalHold that is there, if you've created custom fields, either created from Team Connect or individually in the product, they're part of the whole summary screen, but normally displayed under this line. I'm not sure you can see this line, but there's a line that separates the out-of-the-box fields and the custom fields. So in this case, I have some custom fields I've created for LegalHold start date and end date. And these can be totally customized if there's specific custom fields that are there on the Team Connect matter, and you want that information to be automatically populated. That's where it can come from as well. But the idea here is, once the custom fields have been created and you've captured that information, you should easily be able to kind of, for example, report on them.
And just to add to that, those custom fields can be required, and they can also be a variable that can go into a template.
That is correct. So now if you go to the custom report designer, if you just go to reporting and go to a custom report designer, I'll just look at a report I created a couple of days back. It kind of shows, the custom fields. Apart from the other data that is there for, for your matters, your people, your LegalHold recipient, we've just added a new object here for custom fields, where you can select that and you'll see all the custom fields, that have been created. And you can then pull those out by adding them quickly to the selected fields. So I already did that. for the legal hold start date and end date. Those are the two custom fields I'd shown earlier. And it's a date field. So like with other date fields in the custom report designer, you can also filter it out. So I want to, for example, only look at start dates that are greater than, 1st of this year, 1st of January of this year. And similarly, you can do the same for end date as well. And then as with the other objects, you can, pull them directly. So I've pulled in the hold name, number, matter name, matter number, matter ID. What this report is now generating for me is give me the details of the hold with the attorneys that have opened, that have a legal hold start date, greater than January and less than, for example, May. And what this will do is it'll automatically populate this information. We could already do that for all the existing out-of-the-box fields, but now we can also do the same for your custom fields. And the rest of the process would be the same. It'll generate a file that you can then easily email on a schedule. In this case, these two people will get that email that I can then schedule, weekly, monthly, daily, or whatever my schedule cadence might be. Or if you're requiring this particular custom field or a custom report to be sent over for downstream consumption by another system, you can also send that file to an FTP location automatically, right? So the main use case is now if you have custom fields, matter information you want to report on automatically, you can just go over here, schedule these reports, to be sent out automatically, as opposed to manually being trying to figure out, hey, what do I do with the custom field data? It'll be available to do it, and secondly, with the functionality already there in the custom report designer to automatically schedule these reports, I think it'll just solve a very important pain point for our clients. And with the custom fields, also, we've added filters around responses and stuff like that as well. So I basically just created another report where we've added filters for example, for responses, where I can build where response is none, which means, pick only the people or the custodians who have not yet complied to the hold. I've pulled the person information, I put the hold information, and I've also added the custom field information. In this case, it'll basically give me the list of the names of the people and their hold information where they have not yet complied for holds that have a legal hold start date, or January of first year, right? So you can now go back and forth and work the custom fields with the different objects and these different filters we've added, which would then automatically populate those results as well. So with the kind of the power of the custom report designer, I think now with all the custom field availability, you can have as many of these reports, right? There's no limit to how many reports these you can create. If there's matter security tied to it, you can only report on data, for example, that you're allowed to see. So that also plays a part in the custom report report designer. But what we're trying to do is just improve the reporting requirements and the functionality that is available in the product. We still have some stuff around reporting for our 2025 roadmap that in subsequent client working group sessions and webinars we plan to add more and more objects. We plan to improve some of our canned reports as well, just to be able to kind of filter out and report any data, whether it's custom or out of the box, have any filters that are required, with dates or responses and stuff like that, and just have a really powerful reporting tool that'll help our clients report real time on LegalHold data. So cool. If you have any questions, you can definitely chat them over, or we'll make sure we save some time for answering any questions you folks might have on this. So questionnaires so reporting, for example, was a big thing for us this past couple of releases. The second thing was kind of questionnaire improvements. And this is again, we'd heard from our clients, is improving, more and more clients. It's kind of funny when we released the product, the first time, the clients using questionnaires was a lot less than what it is now. I think just with advent of technology, I think more and more questionnaires are now part of the LegalHold process. I think most of our clients use questionnaires now as opposed to very few, back in the day. So with, of course, a questionnaire is being such an integral part of any LegalHold process. Again, a big ticket item for us over the last couple of releases was improving kind of the questionnaire management, workflow. And one of the things we did was add branching logic to it, right? Because if you have a large questionnaire, you don't want custodians to basically having to go through the entire questionnaire in totality, right? If you have because you know, custodians also are your employees. They have busy days. They probably, hey, I can't answer this right now. There's too many questions. I'll come back and I'll answer it later, right? Which might affect your compliance rates because the questionnaires have not been completed yet. So the idea behind this was obviously improving the branching logic was one of the features we added just to kind of improve our goal of increase kind of the questionnaire completion timelines. So custodians don't spend a lot of time answering questions, and they can only answer questions that are relative to them. And as opposed to, we also kind of improved some of our existing reports around questionnaire management. There's a very important report we call our questionnaire analysis report that you can basically report on all the responses for the custodians on a particular legal hold. We just kind of improved the format of that as well. So the first thing was around branching logic, right? Because you want to have that branching logic built in there. So some people might call it conditional logic, where you don't have to answer all the questions and you basically get the necessary questions based on the response on your previous question. And here with these different branching logic, you can create as many conditions as you want for a particular questionnaire. With the and or logic, you might have seen if you've used tools like this, questionnaire tools that do a lot of this dedicated functionality. And we've kind of built this, into the product as well, where when I'm working on for example, a questionnaire template, I can come add as many conditions, as I want. I've just created, 3 conditions. You can have as many as you want. You can make it part of a particular template. And the idea behind this is once you've kind of done this part and added this template to a questionnaire, for the custodian, once the custodian gets their questionnaire, they don't have to answer all the questions. What they see is they can only respond to the logic that has been built into the questionnaire. So what I'll do is I'm going to look at now from a custodian point of view. This is our custodian portal in the application. So I'm now wearing my custodian hat, which is I've already got a questionnaire that had some branching logic already built in. And the idea here is, when the custodian sees, they'll only see the questions that you want them to see the first time they log in. I only see 3 questions, but if I say yes to the first question, there is some logic tied into it. So I only see the question. If I'd answered no, there can be another question, or I would just move on and say end of survey altogether, right? So you can have basically, depending on what the responses for the custodians are, you can develop logic in the application. In this case, there were only 3 questions, but if I had said no to all my questions, those are only 3 questions I would have seen, right? And I would just submitted my response. If you have a large questionnaire of 20 questions, but you can now kind of change the logic to these questionnaire and only have the custodian see the questions that are relative to them, right? So that is kind of the use case behind it. Just improve compliance rates, obviously, and how fast custodians can finish their questionnaire. Because obviously, if you have a large questionnaire, you don't want the have to be a very kind of complicated process for the custodians for them to answer the questionnaire. So that is one thing. Again, this is just a small example of what this might look like. Obviously, depending on your number of questions and questionnaires, you can kind of do different things with it. And the second thing I want to quickly talk about was our existing kind of out-of-the-box reporting. We have a very important report we've called the questionnaire analysis report. That is not yet there in the custom report designer. That's something we are looking to do and subsequently. But the idea behind is, hey, if I want to just quickly analyze questionnaire responses, for a particular legal hold, where I'm going to pick, legal hold. Let's say I pick this one. There is a tab where you can actually go. We call it kind of a question analysis tab. This is the questionnaires for the custodians. You can view all the responses that the custodians might have done to the different questionnaires. Obviously, the questionnaire branching logic plays a part over here as well. but when you export kind of the response, in the form of CSV, if the format is new. Earlier it was a little, if you had a lot of kind of custodians and a lot of questions, it was a little hard to digest, but we kind of just made the process a lot easier. We've now broken it down by custodians, and the filtering of the responses is a lot easier. So if you're an existing client and you'd use questionnaires, you'll see that the format of this for the individual whole report is a little different. And this came from our client idea portal as well. Again, reporting questionnaires are two big ticket items. If you ask me for the roadmap for this year, that's again a big theme for us, right? Just improve our reporting, and then questionnaires I think is getting more and more popular. So we're adding some more bells and whistles to our questionnaire workflow. Cool. So that's something around questionnaires that we released in the last couple of releases. Next thing I want to talk about was the enhanced notifications and communication. So the idea behind this was, we have variables in the application where you can pick, for example, the attorney, right? You can say, hey, if you have any questions, you can include the primary internal contact, which is for example, the main assignee from Team Connect, or I think it's the main player in eCounsel, which automatically gets added, to the LegalHold in the LegalHold application, right? But we realize that sometimes the attorney is not the person you want the custodian to get in touch with, right? It might be a paralegal, it might be the whole sender, but knowing who those people are for every LegalHold and populating that information in every notice can be pretty cumbersome and time consuming, right? So that's kind of one of the pain points we kind of realized, where our objective was just improve communication between the custodians and the legal department. And the second thing was, hey, what happens when custodians leave the company, right? We had workflows in place where we could send out notifications to the IT team, right? But that notification won't be specific to the attorneys and the paralegals and the whole senders, right? And if you add those global notifications, the attorney might get a notification for all the custodians that are being that are leaving the company, and have details for all the LegalHolds, which will be too much information. So we wanted to kind of have workflows built in the application where once custodians leave the company, the legal department, the attorneys, the paralegals are notified, but only their relevant information is being sent to them, as opposed to them getting a kind of a much larger email. So we added some workflows around one, designating what we call secondary internal contacts, and then also I'll explain how the notifications work around when folks leave the company, and then also around escalation as well. This is kind of we call it our custodian status change email. I'll kind of explain this in a little bit. And also we have an escalation notifications. We've added some improvements to that workflow as well. So the first thing is I'll do is, if you look at a particular LegalHold, I'm just going to go to one of the LegalHolds I was already working on. So we have the legal staff that normally comes together from, or comes from the matter inside the ELM. So Team Connect, eCounsel, Acuity, that information is automatically populated into the legal staff section of the LegalHold, right? Because your LegalHold process, as I mentioned earlier, is an extension of the legal matter. So once the information is populated automatically, from Team Connect or eCounsel, the attorney who's the primary contact gets designated as a primary person, right? And then we have variables for that where you can notify the custodians or include the attorney also as part of any notification that goes out. But the use case behind this was, hey, I don't want the attorney to be notified, for example. I want someone who's a secondary internal contact, right? Who's a secondary, might be a paralegal, or might be someone else in the organization. So what we've done is now on a whole by whole level, you can easily designate a secondary person who might be a secondary internal contact. In this case, I've designated Amanda as my secondary internal contact, and then Kristen, who's already my attorney, right? So once you've kind of designated that, what we've done is, in all your legal hold notices, we've automatically also created variables for the secondary internal contact information as well. So I can easily say like, hey, let me include the secondary internal contact here, also include the email and phone number, right? So once the legal hold notice goes out, if you already have these variables as part of your template, it will automatically populate it based on who you've notified or designated as that secondary internal contact. And we've also, then the feedback we got from a client working group was, hey, our secondary internal contact is a paralegal, but that the paralegal is not the person who sends the hold notice out. That might be a third person or a third role in an organization. So what we did was we also then included variables for the hold sender, name, email, phone. So now you basically had the information on your templates for your attorney, your secondary internal contact, and then also for your hold sender, who even if in your organization might be the same person, might be the attorney itself, right? So then you don't have to include the variables for the hold sender because the attorney might be the one sending the notifications out. But what we've done is we've just given more flexibility in when you're designing your template, you can basically pick and choose what variables you want to use. So the custodians, when they get the email, if they've included the secondary internal contact name, then they know that's the person I want to get in touch with. I really don't want to get in touch with the attorney. Or if you want the custodians to get in touch with the attorney, you can include that particular variable that gets automatically populated. So you've given more flexibility around your notifications and who are the folks who get the notifications. And at the same time, we have what we call our employee status notification, where once a custodian is on an active legal hold, and for example, they leave the company, right? So we have notifications that legal departments initially could be automatically notified once this happens. Now what we've done is, and this is new, we've added the copies also, the emails also to be sent out to the hold issuer, the person who's sent the hold out, if the particular custodian who's leaving the company is on that legal hold, or then also the attorney or the paralegal, right? You can turn these toggles on and the notification will automatically go out to those people. So what we've now done is, so once, let's say I am a legal hold custodian, I'm active on 5 legal holds and I leave the company. So you can automatically designate on top over here your IT people who basically get an email with the list of all the 5 legal holds. But then with these different toggles that are there for manager, hold issuer, primary, internal contact, those people will only get details of the hold if there are a primary legal contact on a hold, right? Let's say I've sent out, in my example, if I'm on 5 legal holds, and of those 5 legal holds, there are 5 different attorneys and 5 different paralegals, then even though the people or the IT people will get the list of 5 holds, the attorney will only get that one hold that they're a primary legal contact on for the employee, like me, who's leaving the company, right? The attorney also, the paralegal also would get one email. So in this, for my example, instead of just one email being sent out, I might get 10 emails, right? Or if you have different hold issuers, then 15 emails, or you have different managers, then 20 emails. So we just broken down how often and how many emails kind of get sent out when custodians kind of leave, the company. So it's pretty straightforward from the front end. There's a lot of kind of back end work that got involved where we basically had to now filter out each legal hold and filter out who those the attorneys and paralegals are.
And just to clarify, if the email is going to an attorney and more than one person is being deactivated, it'll combine them into one email. So they won't get individual emails. Each person who is getting that CC will get a list of anyone who's been deactivated.
Yep, great point. Because we don't want, because we have the concept of digest emails, and the scheduled tasks over here basically are kind of those digest emails that go out, right? Because you don't want, anytime an action happens, you necessarily don't want the people to be notified. Similarly for escalations as well, that's also global digest email that goes out to the manager, but we've now also included the toggles for the attorney and, for example, the paralegal, if they also want to be notified when some people on their legal holds have been escalated, right? Earlier, they were out of the loop. you would obviously have to go and find that information, the LegalHold application, say, hey, for this particular non-respondent, a collection has been issued. But now with these options over here, they can automatically be in the loop as well and be notified as soon as a escalation has happened, for a non-respondent. That's again came from our client working group, just kind of adding more flexibility to your escalation notifications as well as the other non-respondent email as well. Cool. So that is kind of the idea around just improved notifications to the secondary internal contact, send notifications when custodians leave the company, for example, and then also send notifications on escalations that happen based on non-respondents. Excuse me, I think my allergies got me a little bit. It's pretty bad in Texas here already, so I apologize. Cool. The next thing we wanted to kind of cover was the improvements to our M365 integration. And that's something we already have inbuilt in the LegalHold application. There is a real-time integration with LegalHold and M365 Purview. And what that basically does is just promote LegalHold defensibility, right? Once a LegalHold is issued in the LegalHold application, once you have this integration with Purview built in, what it did was it would put automatically the OneDrive and the email data sources, on hold automatically. But what wasn't there was Teams, which we heard from as well. So Microsoft recently released their new Graph APIs for e-discovery that facilitates this integrations, and that we're using. Recently, I think late last year in October, they released the APIs to facilitate an automatic Teams integration as well. And that's what we leverage to build this new integration that'll automatically put the Teams data sources for the custodians automatically on hold as well. And it doesn't really put all the Teams channels. It only puts the Teams channel that the custodian is a part of. So you don't have to. I've heard the use case where you might have a different lot of Teams channels in your organization. It's hard for you to figure out or pinpoint, hey, who's the custodian, one particular custodian part of what channels, right? So then you have to do a little filtering, and in doing that, with this integration, that'll happen automatically, saving you basically time and effort in trying to figure out, what the different Teams channels are. And the workflow is pretty similar. Like, we've just added a new option over here where it says Teams as your, with the other options where you could select mailboxes and OneDrives, you'll now be able to use this option to select, Teams as well. And I actually have a LegalHold, the same LegalHold I had created where I did integrate, with Purview and Teams. If you have not familiar with this integration, what this basically does is there's a new toggle on the hold notice. If you already have the integration configured, you can turn it on. And once you're adding your custodians, you can then automatically, once you're working, you can select what data sources you want to be put on hold for that particular custodian and for that particular LegalHold. And what we've done is now for the custodians, you can easily globally select, mailboxes, OneDrive, and the new option is Teams. And what this basically does is once this LegalHold is sent out, let's say I send this LegalHold out for the first time, I'm just going to look at my Purview environment. It automatically creates this LegalHold that was basically created in the LegalHold application in Purview. It then automatically adds those custodians that you've added in the LegalHold application, right? So if I go over here, these are the custodians that have existing, for example, Active Directory accounts. I think there are 5 of them. It automatically put those people's records on hold. And now with this Teams integration, if I look at Miguel, because he's part of Teams chat, so he has some Teams channels assigned to them. If you look at his locations, you'll see all these different Teams channels he's part of is automatically, being put on hold as well. So all that happened directly, from the LegalHold application, right? The O365 or N365 admin didn't really have to do anything. All that happens automatically, via the integration. And once the hold is released or the custodian is released, that'll kind of happen automatically in Purview as well. So once I go and release some custodians or I release this particular legal hold, all that actions happens automatically here. Once I add a new custodian, it'll it'll ask you to do the same. It'll add that custodian to this particular hold and then preserve the selected kind of data sources, right? So we've now, what we've done is we've replicated all the functionality that you might have to manually do in Purview, saving you time and effort, right? And then also defensibility, because all this integration happens, this preservation happens automatically, without someone having to manually go in there and do that. So I think there's definitely a lot of value in there. And Purview is, I think, more and more clients I've seen are leveraging this Purview integration. Again, we have some plans on this year's roadmap also to further improve, this integration. If you have multiple domains, for example, in your organization, you might have a merger or an acquisition where you've got another Active Directory account or another tenant of M365 that is still separate. So we're working on some of that functionality as well to automate that process. And then also some error notifications once, for some reason there is an error that happens when someone's, custodian records did not get put on hold. In this case, this Lucas did not have a Purview or an Active Directory account. So the API basically gave a response of an error. So we'll be working on this year's roadmap based on some of the feedback we've gotten. If we want these errors also to be automatic, right? If the on hold or preservation did not happen automatically, send out an error notification. So that's some of the things we're kind of working on. That's another kind of big theme for us for this year as well. Just solidify this application, this integration, as Microsoft kind of further releases their APIs, we'll further kind of work on our integration as well. So that's one of kind of the stuff around the M365 integration. And the last kind of big ticket feature we had was the accuracy of the compliance rates. And this also, like we got feedback from our clients. I also heard from some of the folks when I was speaking to them was just how do you manage, your termed employees, right? Your employees might have left the company, but you're still putting them on legal hold for whatever reason. Or you've put a person on a legal hold, and before they've had to comply or before they've had a chance to comply to the legal hold, they leave the company. Well, technically, you've left the company, that person might never comply to the legal hold, right? Because they're technically not part of the organization anymore. So what that means is that person who never yet complies showed up as a not yet responded person in our application, which kind of messed up the compliance rates a little bit. Folks would have to go in there and then do kind of a third-party acknowledgement for people they knew will never respond because they're never part of the organization. So there's just a little bit of inaccuracy in the compliance rates. So what we did was we just created a new bucket in the application, right? Because we know for a fact, based on your HR feed integration that all your clients, you use, we get the latest and greatest status of every employee in the application. So first thing we did was, as when you're adding a custodian to a legal hold, we've added a new field for employment status. So you now from the get-go know this particular person is not active in the application. So at this point, you might not want to send them, or in some cases, you still might want to collect some information because you haven't removed their records or their records still exist, and you still want to put a preservation on their hold, right? So you know that this person is going to be inactive. In this case, is active, but we've added the feature or the column for people with inactive employment status. And the other thing we did was we just added a new bucket that once you're reviewing a particular legal hold, people are inactive in the organization or have become inactive in the organization before they comply to the hold, they would automatically be moved to a new bucket. And that bucket of people would not add or to your non-respondent rate, right? You don't have any percentages over it because in most cases, those people won't ever comply to the legal hold. So what this basically does is just increases the accuracy of your compliance rates for obvious reasons. So now if I go to a particular legal hold, I'm just going to pick one I knew had some inactive people. You'll see this particular legal hold over here. even though the non-respondents are 19, the inactive people without responses have inactive status, and they're not calculated against your non-respondents, right? Because these are the people who've never kind of have left the company, right? And this basically will only affect people who either were inactive when the hold was sent out or were inactive after the hold was sent out, but they became inactive before they had a chance to comply to the legal hold. Once if they've complied to the legal hold and they become inactive, then obviously we won't touch their response times and dates because they took that action in the legal hold, product before they left the company. So this new bucket will basically automatically show all the inactive people that are there. And the other thing is, if you don't have any inactive people in your legal hold, then that bucket doesn't show up, right? Like in this first legal hold, I don't have this bucket, and that's because I really don't have anybody who's inactive, with an employment status of inactive on this particular legal hold. The important thing to know is the bucket only shows up once they're inactive people on the legal hold, and they don't tie up to the non-respondent rate. So your compliance rates will become more accurate in terms of, when for your reporting, and if you're monitoring compliance really closely, I think it'll just help the compliance rate accuracy. So that's something, again, we came from I heard feedback from a client work group, and also based on some conversations I had with other clients as well. So those are kind of the big ticket items that were kind of part of our roadmap that we worked on. Again, reporting. Even this year, we're working on questionnaires. Even this year, we're working on M365 integration. Even this year, we have some big plans. But apart from that, we also have the idea portal, where we get a lot of feedback from existing clients on some of the smaller tickets, right? They don't have involve kind of bigger workflows, but we also include a lot of kind of smaller ideas as well. I'll just quickly go through some of again, I think we had a list of 24 of these. I only picked 4, could just, the time constraints. So the first one we call is our contact me workflow. And for folks who are not aware of this, what this is, we have a workflow we call contact me, where when the custodian gets an email and they might have a question of the legal department, hey, why did I get this notification for legal hold in the first place? So they can click on it, they can ask questions, and it'll generate an email for the hold issuer, and the hold issuer can respond, hey, this is why you're a custodian. They can go back and forth, and all that is basically tracked via email and in the application. But one of the feedback we got was, hey, it'll be cool if you include a variable for contact me as well as part of the whole notice that goes out, which makes sense. So what we did was, if you look at your legal holds, where we showed the different templates, we've just included a new variable for link to contact me. And this is a legal hold. I actually use that variable where I included, and I send this legal hold out. I'm not going to look at the email from a custodian point of view. So I have one link for the custodian portal and one link for the contact me variable. So once the custodian gets their email, the variables will automatically be resolved into the button. This is obviously the variable for responding to the legal hold. And now the variable for the contact me would be also a link and a button. And you can obviously change the language. But the idea here is, hey, if the custodian has a question, they click on the link, the application will automatically authenticate them and take them to the custodian portal, to the contact me page for that particular legal hold. They might have a question, and they can then enter a comment, something like, and what we do is then the hold issuer will get a notification, and they can go back and forth, and all this is tracked in the application. But what this variable does is, earlier the variable was inside the custodian portal, which was a little confusing. So now we can make it a part of the notification that goes out, just kind of simplifying the process a little bit, right? Because when the custodian sees this email, they have 2 options. Either they can respond, or they can potentially ask a question. That's something we released recently as well from Idea Portal. We also then improved some of the review and send notifications And what this basically does is, once a legal hold is sent out, several different stakeholders can be notified, right? In this case, I'm sending the notifications to 4 recipients. I'm also sending the notification to 1 data steward, which is a separate workflow in the application. I'm also sending a courtesy copy to 1 legal staff member. And then obviously we don't send notifications to inactive custodians by default. You can override that. And then we don't obviously send out notifications to silent custodians. What we've done is we just kind of broken this down in this message that before you click the send button as a whole sender, you're exactly clear who are the people who are going to get notified, who are the people who are not going to get notified. So you can make sure that the numbers are clear before you click on the send button. And also, if you have the Purview integration already, built in, we include kind of that as well. So I'm going to click on a legal hold, quickly that I haven't really sent out yet. I'm just going to go to the review and send because this has a lot of data. You'll see it has a lot of information over here. This email is going out to 15 recipients. It's going out to 1 data steward. It's sending a courtesy copy to 4 legal staff, right? Because those might be getting your attorneys or your paralegals who get a courtesy copy. And it's adding 46 e-discovery custodians. This is for your M365 integration. I'll just hold that number 46 in mind. No notification will be sent to 26 inactive and then 5 silent, right? Because we don't send the notification to them. But for the inactive and silent, they still might have active directory accounts. You might want to still initiate a preservation in place for them. So this 46 will include the 15 active, the 26 inactive, and the 5 silent, right? Even though these people don't get notified, you're still preserving their data in Purview. That's why this number might be a little, hey, why is this 46? It's basically will include all the people who don't get notified, plus your active people. So 15 plus 26 plus 5 is 46. So we've just kind of broken this down. So once the paralegal or the hold admin or whoever is managing your legal holds clicks the send button, they get a quick snapshot of who they are. They can see like, hey, why do I have 26 inactive people? They can easily then come over here and they can see, we've now added the employment status over here as well. They can easily filter out their inactive people. Oh yeah, these are the inactive people. I know who they are. Or who are my silent people? I know exactly who they are, right? So you can go once before they send the hold out, they know exactly sure who are the people who will get notified. And then looking at the new kind of field we added for employment status, they can go back and check that as well. Just makes it a lot easier for them. So they're sure that when this email goes out, the greens are the people getting the notifications or some action is going to happen. And the blues are people who do not get any notification, but are still tracked in the LegalHold application. So that again came from our client working group. We just called the updated view and send notification. This is another one I kind of mentioned a little bit as well. If you have, for some reason you send out a legal hold, out, and there's an integration built in, with Purview, and there's an error for some reason, from the API response, we get an error. There might be the Active Directory account might not be created, or something else. We will obviously list you what the errors are, but there was no easy way for you to resync that custodian record. For example, once you fix the error, so we just added a way where instead of individually doing it, if there's only one error, you might just do it individually. But if you have, again, 100 custodians and you just want to resync 50 of them for some reason, we just added this bulk option over here. We could just click on this button. It'll basically go through the entire custodian list and then send a response through the API to Purview, an updated response. Say, hey, the error might have fixed, or can you just check that again, put this preservation notice on hold. So just easier way to retry and, into integration with Purview for any error record, that has happened, with that integration. And lastly, is just our releasing a data steward. I'll go quickly because I want to make sure we have a little bit of at least 5 minutes for questions. But we have a separate data steward workflow in the application as well, where the custodian gets a notification, for the hold notice, and you might want to send out a separate notice we call a preservation notice to the data stewards, which are normally might be your legal IT or IT people who are actually responsible for the collection or preservation, of data. But there was no easy way to release them. Obviously, there's a very detailed workflow for releasing custodians, but just in case you want to release a data steward, you might want to add a particular data steward. We've added that functionality as well, where I might go to a particular legal hold that I know has a preservation notice built in. I think this one does. Yep. So this is the preservation notice, which is a separate notice that is sent out to the data stewards. These are your kind of different data stewards. If you say, hey, Lucas Jones is not really required to be a data steward as well, they might be inactive in the organization as well. So you can easily now just do like a release. And what this will do is it'll generate an email for the data steward. So if I just go into the email for Lucas Jones, it'll basically just tell me, yeah, tell the data steward, hey, you've been released from this particular legal hold. And that happens automatically. And similarly, you can do the same. Hey, I made a mistake. I want to kind of add them again. You can kind of do that as well. Just a simple one-click workflow. It'll then restore, that particular data steward, and they get an email as well that hey, you've now reassigned to this particular legal hold. So just kind of completing the workflow. If you are using the data steward, just an easy way for you to release and re-add, data stewards if needed. So that's another thing we got from our client idea portal. Cool. I know I rambled off. There's a lot to show. We have 5 minutes left, so what I'll do is I'll just open for any questions. Marina, was there anything specific you need my help on?
Nope, I didn't see anything come through the chats either.